Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into something a lot of you are trying to figure out, like how social media impacts our relationships, in this day and age. And you specifically mentioned the book Love in the Digital Age, so we're going to dive deep into that.
Hmm.
And it all starts with this story about a couple, Lena and Mark. And honestly, it might feel a little too real for some of you out there.
Yeah, this story from Chapter 1, The Digital Divide, a story of love and social media, it really sets the stage. Lena and Mark, well, they're a couple. They're initially deeply in love, but they found their connection kind of fading as they become, more dependent on their phones. And just imagine this, it's their anniversary and Mark has planned this super romantic dinner, like candles, their favorite meal, even his phone is silenced. But when Lena arrives, she is completely preoccupied with getting the perfect Instagram story of their night.
Oh,
Right. Mark is understandably frustrated. He finally asks her, can we just enjoy this moment, without broadcasting it to the whole world? But Lena, she's kind of lost in curating this online persona and she just dismisses him. And that night, they sleep facing opposite directions. It's like this physical representation of this growing chasm between them. And days pass filled with this heavy silence. Lena finds herself scrolling through old photos and she's reminiscing about their genuine connection in the early days. It's like she needs to look back to realize what's missing right now. At the same time, Mark stumbles upon an old text from Lena. It says, "You're my favorite person in the world," a sentiment she hasn't expressed in person for far too long.
it's amazing how those digital breadcrumbs can sometimes highlight what we're missing offline.
Totally. Finally, Lena puts down her phone and she admits to Mark, "I miss us." He replies with this mix of sadness and relief, "Me too." And that night, they finally have a real conversation. They rediscover each other without the digital distractions, and they make a pact to set some boundaries with social media, choosing real moments over online validation. No phones during quality time, replacing endless scrolling with real conversations, and trading the trap of comparison for appreciation of their unique connection.
That story is so powerful. I think a lot of people listening have probably experienced some version of Lena and Mark's struggle.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get sucked into that digital world and lose sight of what truly matters. The question is, what can we learn from their experience?
Well, the book dives into that, highlighting some key takeaways from their journey. One of the most striking is how social media can create this emotional distance and neglect in relationships. It's like we allow these platforms to consume our time and attention that should be dedicated to our partners. But it's not just about the time spent, it's about the quality of interaction.
And it's so easy to fall into the comparison trap. We're constantly bombarded with these seemingly perfect relationships online. And it can really steal the joy from your own connection, making you feel like your relationship isn't good enough.
Exactly. And the book digs into, why social media fuels this behavior. It's not just about seeing happy couples. It's about the curated content and the algorithm manipulation that's designed to keep us engaged. These platforms often showcase the highlight reel, not the reality of relationships. So it creates this distorted perception of what's normal.
It makes sense. You're constantly exposed to these idealized versions of love and connection. No wonder it messes with your perception. What's fascinating, though, is how the book doesn't just focus on the doom and gloom. It acknowledges that social media isn't inherently good or bad. It's all about how we use it.
Right. The book dives into both the negative and positive aspects. It's like social media is this double-edged sword. It can connect us and divide us, build us up and tear us down, all depending on how we wield it.
So let's unpack this a bit. What are some of the downsides the book highlights? The things we should be wary of when it comes to social media and our relationships?
One of the first things the book addresses is the potential for distraction from real-life bonding. We've all experienced those moments when you're physically together, but mentally miles apart, lost in your digital world.
Like a silent barrier between you, even when you're sitting right next to each other.
Exactly. And then as we discussed, there's the comparison game and the unrealistic expectations that stem from seeing those seemingly perfect couples online. This can lead to feelings of inadequacy and insecurity chipping away at your own relationship satisfaction.
And then there's the jealousy. Social media can be a breeding ground for insecurity. Overanalyzing likes, comments, and who's following whom, creating unnecessary doubt and suspicion in the relationship.
It's like you're inviting the whole internet into your relationship, opening it up to scrutiny and comparison, and that can be incredibly damaging.
And of course, there's the impact on communication. The book talks about how relying on text messages or liking posts can never truly replace those genuine face-to-face conversations that are essential for building intimacy.
Right. It's like the difference between a quick text and a heartfelt letter.
Yeah.
One is convenient, the other takes effort and intentionality, but the impact is undeniable.
But it's not all doom and gloom. The book also acknowledges the potential benefits of social media for couples.
Absolutely. When used mindfully, social media can be a valuable tool for connection, especially for couples in long-distance relationships or with busy schedules. A quick message, a video call, sharing a post that resonates with both of you, these can all help bridge the gap and maintain that emotional closeness.
It's like having this virtual bridge, keeping that connection alive
Exactly.
despite the physical distance.
Exactly. And social media can also be a great way to discover and explore shared interests. Think about it. You can try new activities, learn about relationship tips, or simply engage in discussions about mutual hobbies all through social media.
It's like a whole world of possibilities at your fingertips. A way to expand your horizons as a couple and strengthen your bond through shared experiences, even if those experiences are initially happening online.
And of course, there's the element of creating and preserving memories. Social media serves as a modern-day scrapbook, a place to document those special moments and look back on them with fondness.
It's like a digital photo album of your journey together. So we've explored both sides of the coin, the potential pitfalls and the potential benefits of social media in relationships. The key takeaway here is that it's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for constructive or destructive purposes.
The book argues that it's about being mindful, setting boundaries, and making conscious choices that prioritize your relationship over the allure of the digital world. And in the next part, we'll explore exactly how to do that, diving into the book's practical strategies for making social media work for your relationship instead of against it. So, how do we actually make social media work for us, not against us? Like, the book doesn't just leave us hanging with this cautionary tale. It offers some concrete solutions and strategies to, navigate this digital landscape without having to sacrifice our relationships.
Yeah, it's all about finding that balance, right? I'm curious, what are some of the solutions that the book proposes?
Well, one of the most important strategies the book emphasizes is setting clear boundaries. Think of it as creating these no phone zones during those sacred moments, meals or date nights or those deep, heart-to-heart conversations.
I love that, like the simplicity of that, just carving out those spaces where you can truly connect without the constant distractions of notifications and scrolling.
Exactly. But it's not just about designated times. It's also about, being mindful of how you engage online, even when you are on social media. For instance, being aware of, the potential for comparison and consciously choosing to focus on celebrating, your own relationship rather than getting caught in that perfect relationship trap.
It's like consciously choosing to appreciate your own unique journey rather than comparing it to someone else's highlight reel.
Precisely. And another key point the book raises is the importance of prioritizing, face-to-face communication. No matter how convenient or tempting it is to just rely on text messages or online chats, nothing can replace the depth and intimacy of those real-life conversations.
That reminds me of something I read recently about phubbing, which is basically like snubbing someone in favor of your phone. And studies show that it can be incredibly damaging to relationships, even if it's unintentional. It creates this sense of being disregarded or unimportant, and it just erodes the foundation of the connection over time.
Oh, that's such an interesting point, and it really underscores what the book is getting at. We need to be mindful of how our digital habits actually impact our partners. And it goes beyond just being present during conversations. The book also dives deeper into those practical strategies for establishing those healthy social media boundaries.
Okay, so let's get specific. What are some of those strategies?
Well, it starts with those no-phone zones we discussed earlier. Meal times, date nights, bedtime routines, those moments when you really want to cultivate real connection. It's about reclaiming those spaces and making a conscious effort to just be present with each other.
It's like hitting the pause button on the digital world and pressing play on real life. And I imagine it could feel incredibly liberating to step away from those constant notifications and just be in the moment.
Absolutely. The book also encourages couples to set limits on their overall screen time, not just during those designated times, but throughout the day. Think about setting specific hours for social media use, just like you would for any other activity. This can help prevent it from bleeding into like every aspect of your lives and taking over those precious moments that could be spent, connecting with your partner.
It's like you're taking back control of your time and attention. And I imagine this is where the do not disturb mode can be really helpful, silencing those notifications and creating a sense of peace and presence.
Exactly. And it's not just about silencing the outside world, it's also about signaling to your partner that they have your undivided attention.
It's like creating a sanctuary, a space where you can truly disconnect from the digital world and reconnect with each other. The book also talks about the importance of, communicating expectations as a couple, right? Having those like open and honest conversations about social media boundaries.
Yes, that's crucial. Each couple needs to figure out what works for them, to establish a shared understanding of what feels comfortable and respectful when it comes to social media use, within the relationship.
It's like creating a relationship contract, but for the digital age.
Exactly. It's about having those conversations proactively before resentment or frustration builds up. The book provides some helpful prompts for initiating these conversations, like what are your biggest pet peeves when it comes to social media use in our relationship? Or what are some boundaries we could set together that would make us both feel more connected?
That's so helpful. It's like having a framework for those sometimes tricky conversations.
Yeah.
Now, the book also dives into red flags, doesn't it? Those signs that social media might be taking a toll on your relationship.
It does. It suggests paying attention to those patterns and habits that might indicate, a deeper issue. For example, consistently spending more time on social media than with your partner, constantly interrupting conversations to check your phone, or finding that most of your arguments stem from social media use.
It's like those little warning bells going off, signaling that something's out of balance.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes the importance of addressing those red flags before they escalate into something more serious. It's about recognizing that sometimes a more drastic approach is needed, which is why the book suggests a social media detox for couples.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Tell me more about this digital detox.
Well, the book argues that sometimes the best way to reset your relationship with technology is to take a deliberate break from it. This could be for a weekend, a week, or even longer, depending on your needs and comfort level.
It sounds intense, but also incredibly liberating. What are some of the key components of this detox?
Well, the book outlines a step-by-step guide, starting with a commitment from both partners. It's important to make a conscious decision together and support each other through the process.
Because let's be honest, those first few days without social media can be tough. It's like breaking any other habit. There are withdrawal symptoms.
Exactly, and that's why having your partner on board is so crucial. You can encourage each other, hold each other accountable, and celebrate your successes along the way. The book also emphasizes replacing screen time with real-life activities. Remember those things you used to enjoy doing together before the constant allure of social media? It's time to dust those off. Go for walks in nature, play board games, cook a meal together, rediscover the simple joys of each other's company without the digital distractions.
It's like going back to basics, remembering what it feels like to be fully present in each other's company. I love that. What else does the book suggest?
Well, it also recommends unfollowing toxic content. Take a critical look at the accounts you're following and consider removing those that trigger negative emotions like comparison, insecurity, or pressure.
It's like a digital cleanse, getting rid of the clutter and creating space for the things that truly nourish you.
Right. And finally, the book encourages couples to use this break as an opportunity for reflection, to ask yourselves, what do we want our relationship with technology to look like? What are our priorities? How can we use social media as a tool to enhance our connection rather than detract from it?
It's like hitting the reset button, not just on your digital habits, but also on your relationship with technology as a whole.
Exactly. And it can be a truly transformative experience both individually and as a couple.
This has been so insightful. I think a lot of people listening are probably itching to try this digital detox for themselves. But I'm curious, what if a full-blown detox feels too extreme? What are some smaller steps couples can take to start creating healthier boundaries with social media?
That's a great question. And you're right, not everyone is ready to go cold turkey. But that's the beauty of it. You can customize it to your own needs and preferences.
So it's like a toolbox, right? You can pick and choose the tools that best suit your relationship and the specific challenges you're facing.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about progress. Every small step you take towards more mindful social media use is a step towards a healthier, more connected relationship. And it starts with awareness. Paying attention to those patterns and habits that might be undermining your connection and making conscious choices to shift them.
So instead of letting social media control us, we learn to control how we interact with it. We set those boundaries, create those spaces for real connection, and prioritize the people we love most. It's about remembering that technology should serve us, not the other way around.
Absolutely. And it's a journey worth taking.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up, in that whirlwind of the digital world.
Yeah.
And we end up losing sight of what actually matters.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening. It really highlights how crucial it is to be intentional about our relationship with technology.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's such a pervasive force in our lives, and it's not going away anytime soon, right? So it's up to us to be more mindful and deliberate about how we allow it to shape our lives and our relationships.
So true. Before we wrap up, what's one final thought you want to leave our listeners with? Something to ponder, something to inspire action.
Well, I think it all comes back to Lena and Mark's story.
Yeah.
Imagine if they hadn't had that, pivotal moment on their anniversary, that wake-up call that kind of forced them to confront their digital habits. Where do you think their relationship would be today? And this isn't just about them. Think about your own life. What small steps can you take this week to prioritize, real connection over those digital distractions?
That's such a powerful question. It really challenges us to look inward and examine our own habits.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be this big grand gesture. It could be as simple as putting your phone away during dinner, having a tech-free hour before bed, or scheduling a regular date night where social media is totally off limits.
It's about those small, consistent actions that over time can create a huge shift in your relationship dynamics. So to everyone listening, take a moment to reflect on your own relationship with social media and how it might be impacting your connections with the people you love. Maybe a digital detox, even for a few hours, is a good place to start. Who knows? You might be surprised at what you discover when you disconnect to reconnect.